Okay, so welcome to exercise 5. And as per usual, if you log on to the DDM site, navigate down to exercise 5, um, you will see that exercise 5 involves using Sketchup 3D software. And there's also some tips and descriptions of how to use the application that's on the handout. And we are going to do 2 objects today. This first object is not to be submitted, it's just going to be done in the class. And this object here will be the object that will be submitted. Okay, so we're going to use SketchUp. Now there are 2 versions of SketchUp. There is the SketchUp application, which you can load up. When you load it up, you will get a welcome screen like this, and then you will be asked to select a unit. You are going to select the millimeters version, the millimeters unit. Now the next version of SketchUp runs in a browser. Before I show you that, this that you see on screen is the application. To see the browser version, if I bring up a browser, type SketchUp in Google, and you should get the option, well, you just click on the first option that comes up. Then you would go to try SketchUp. And then you will see different versions here. You could go for the free personal projects and just go to start modeling. And then you'll be taken to the web version of SketchUp. Right? And when you go here, then you go to create new. And there you have it. So here we have the web version and the desktop version. So you might notice that they look a little different. These tool icons here are on the side. However, for this exercise, we will be using the desktop version of SketchUp and not the web version. But if you only have the web version, you can follow along. All right, so when you open SketchUp, this is what the basic user interface will look like. You should have some icons towards the top. Then you might notice you might have a character here for scale, and you will notice perhaps a background. In this case, it is a sky. Now, before we get going with SketchUp, I want us to make some quick alterations to the user interface that will make our experience a bit better, right? And this is why we want to use a desktop version. So first, I want us to go to camera. Then I want us to change to parallel projection, like that. Then I want us to go to camera again and go to standard views, then select the top view. Okay, great. Next, we're going to go to view, toolbars, and we are going to turn off the getting started. You'll notice that there is a getting started tab, and that tab is here. And getting started, the getting started toolbar refers to this toolbar that you see on top. And basically what it is giving us the, let's just say, a good way to start off using the program. But I don't want us to start with the Getting Started tab. Instead, I want us to turn that off and enable the large tool set. So we're going to turn off Getting Started. And then we're going to scroll down and look for large tool set, which you can see here. And when you enable large tool set, you will get this tool set right here, right? And if you notice, if I even turn on the Getting Started, you might notice some similarities. For example, the eraser tool is also here. And you know, you will see some of these tools, but obviously you will see that the large tool set actually has more tools. So I want us to use the large tool set to get started, and instead of the Getting Started tool set. Alright, there we go. So now that we have that ready, before we start to get going, I want to just compare our experience of using Illustrator, of using SketchUp, to that of Illustrator. Now, if I kind of roll this back here, you will see that I have a side-by-side view with Illustrator. Now, of course, Illustrator has its tool set here, and you can see that SketchUp also has its tool set here as well, right? Now you might also notice there are a few similarities with some of these tool sets, and I drawn these similarities because we are going to explore the user interface, the core user interface of SketchUp, and we are going to kind of compare that to how we used Illustrator in our past exercise. Now you don't need Illustrator for this exercise. I am simply just showing this as an example, right? Now what we're going to try out is we are going to draw our experience with using the pen tool, right? And if you remember from using the pen tool, we were able to draw lines and shapes, and we could be pretty accurate about it. So for example, I have written the letter C here using the pen tool. Now what I want us to do in SketchUp, firstly we're going to delete this little this is the top view of that character that you saw, and to delete it we're going to use our selection tool, and you might notice that the selection tool is indeed quite similar. There is also a selection tool in Illustrator. So with the selection tool selected, we're going to click this guy here and we're going to delete it. Alright, now if I wanted to replicate drawing this shape in Illustrator, I would need to grab my pencil tool, and the pencil tool is the basic equivalent of the pen tool in Illustrator. They act and do activities pretty similar. Now to navigate in SketchUp, we're going to use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, right? Remember, before we get going, ensure that your view has been set to, your camera has been set to parallel and your standard view has been set to top. You can know this because you will see in the top right hand corner that there is a top icon up there. Now the mouse wheel will zoom in and out, and holding Shift and the middle mouse button will pan around. right? So zoom with the mouse wheel, hold shift and middle mouse button to pan around. Now if you notice at the center of your screen you have your origin point, which is located here. And this is basically the center of your scene. And you will notice that Illustrator does not quite have that. However, in Illustrator, we do have a finite space working with. If I zoom out here, all the way out, you will see that Illustrator has a finite space. You have to be working within this space here and not go beyond these lines. However, when you're working in a 3D program, a 3D program has a viewport which is essentially an infinite space. So because it's so easy to kind of get lost in this infinite space, it's a good idea to always know where is your center point, your origin. And in our case, we're going to start drawing from the origin. All right, now, so remember our objective. Currently, we're just exploring the user interface. You do not need to open Illustrator, but yet still we are going to replicate this shape in SketchUp using the pencil tool, which is located here. Now, before we get started, just to notice some other things about this user interface. And if for some of us, we might have a tray on our right that is here. Now in this case, my tray is actually minimized, but for some of us, this tray might be looking like would be maximized like that. Now if you have this tray here, what you're going to do is to just unpin it by clicking this little pin here, and then it should be able to just roll up like that. Additionally, you also have your menus up top, and you have a little area to display length at the bottom, and some tool tips that is located here. Now to get going, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the line tool using and this is basically our pencil tool, and this works very similar to the pen tool. We're going to start let's start from our center point, and we're going to draw a line up. As a matter of fact, let's not start from the center point. Let's start from just any random location, and we're going to sketch this out. Now notice that I don't have to hold shift to get a straight line. The SketchUp will automatically snap when the line is parallel. So I'm going to draw the first line here, then I'm going to go across here, and it will do the same thing. Now notice the colors of these lines. Whenever I draw horizontal and it snaps to a horizontal, it gives me a red. Whenever I snap to a vertical line, it gives me a green. Same again, red. So this is how you know, like, when you are at a full 90 degree, because if I was not, the line would be black. Additionally, notice how these snap points might come up when you try to draw. So it's kind of like Illustrator, where it's helping you to be accurate, right? And it also gives you a bit of what you call polar snapping, because you can see these dash lines. If you try to hover at a point, don't click, just hover over it and move, you will see it giving you this dash line that you can use as a kind of reference to know if the line is actually straight. So that is pretty cool. All right, so I want to stop just short of here like that, then go. See, I can see that it is aligned to this point because I've gotten my reference line here. Then I'm going to go up, and I can see that this snaps to here. So I'm going to click again and click again to complete. And when I do that, notice that the it is a rough shape. Now this is a freehand kind of drawing, digitally drawing, but that's fine because that's what we want to do now, right? So that is pretty interesting. Now, just like before, how we drew this this shape here, but pretty much we are kind of stuck on this flat axis. Now, what I want us to do now is to transition the shape that we have just drawn into 3D. And to do that, you're going to hold the middle mouse button and you're going to kind of push against, click and hold. You will see the cursor change to a kind of orbit. And you're going to push or pull the mouse while holding the middle mouse button. And that will give you the ability to orbit. So I want us to try and orbit like this. Now right away you notice a difference here because what we have over here, we can only draw with on a flat piece of paper, whereas here now it is a full three-dimensional space. So because it is a three-dimensional space, what I want us to do now is we are gonna draw on the z-axis. Now pretty much we have been drawing on the x and y-axis, and our y-axis would be like this and our x-axis would be going this way. But our z-axis is now going perpendicular up this way. So we are now going to draw along the z-axis now, and that will give us the ability to draw in a full 3D shape. Now, in order to do this now, you have to use the orbit tool a lot so that you can know what direction you're going, because things can tend to get a little bit confusing when trying to go in 3D. So what we're going to do, we're going to full screen this because we have left 2D behind, and now we're able to draw in the third dimension. So let us continue here, and this time what I want us to do is we're going to draw this line vertically up. Now notice how I'm getting this color line now, this kind of bluish purple line now. But if I continued on the x-axis, I would have gotten the green line. And if I, this is the y-axis, sorry, I would have gotten the green line. And along the x-axis, I would have gotten the red line. So that is how you keep track of how you are drawing, as things can tend to look a bit confusing in 3D. For example, if I'm going this way, what direction am I really going? I don't really know because the line is black. It might just be my view angle that's making it look all weird. But when it snaps to a color, you know that, okay, I'm definitely going along this flat axis now. Our red color, you know that, okay, I'm definitely going along this axis now. And of course, the purple color, or the blue color rather, I definitely know I'm going upward on this axis now. So I want us to use these color axis highlights to help us to create this shape. So what we're going to do now, we're going to now try to angle our shape in a way so we can go up on the Z axis. Let's kind of do it like that. Now, it doesn't matter how tall you make this. The key thing is to make sure that you are on the Z axis. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to come across along the Y axis. And what I want you to do while you're drawing this is to use the middle mouse button to just kind of hover so that you can have an idea of what axis you're drawing in. Now, I want it to line up with here. So what I'm going to do is just hover at that point and just slowly move my mouse up. And you will notice that it is giving me this line here that will help me to be aligned with this point. Alright, so I'm going to go there and then I'm going to attach it here. Now once I do that, notice that this also gets a fill color as well. And if I orbit around, you can see that I've clearly drew a 90-degree angle here. Alright, so we're going to continue with this shape to just get it done. So we're going to go like this, and we're going to do that same thing again. We're going to hover at this point and slowly push the mouse up, and you will see where it will mark that out for us. And we're going to do the same here. Kind of hover from this point. There we go. And we're going to do the same here. Now hover from this point here. If it doesn't work the first time, you have to just kind of go slow with it. Now this might be a bit tricky, because notice that this line is aligned with here. So what, in cases like this, you want to change your view slightly so that you don't have two lines overlapping over each other, and things will tend to get more confusing that way. Then we're going to continue down here. Let's go slow. And down here. And across here. And we're going to go up again. Like that. And then we're going to close this. Now watch what happens when I close this shape. Notice that the entire shape closes. And when it closes, this simply means that, well, everything is correct. And now we have drawn this shape fully in 3D. So great. So now that we have gotten the hang of this, we were able to draw this shape starting from a complete top-down view. Now, what we're going to do is to try another shape, but this time I want to change our view to, so we're going to change it from parallel projection now, and then we're going to change to perspective, and that will give us a kind of perspective view. So when we angle here, we can clearly see that we are in perspective now. And this time, let us try something a bit more complex. So I'm going to sketch the letter E. Now to do that, I'm going to start at a random position, just like before. And I'm going to try to keep these lines parallel. Remember, you know that it's parallel based on the color. Now notice now that I'm drawing in 3D, full 3D, instead of a top view. So now you need to keep an eye on what direction you're drawing, because if I'm going upward on the z-axis, notice I'm getting a blue line, and if I'm going across, notice I'm getting a green line. So these lines become important, especially when you're drawing in 3D. So I'm going to go up on the y-axis now, and when it goes here, I know that this line is perpendicular, but of course perspective can kind of trick us. So notice how this green line here, well, this line is actually parallel. If you take a closer look at this, in perspective, this line is actually parallel to this line. But because it's going in a perspective, it's hard to really see that. So this is why these colors become very important, because the green is telling us that, hey, this is parallel to this, even though from a visual standpoint, because of perspective, it doesn't seem parallel. So we're going to go up. Now in cases where this might look a little weird, what you can do is kind of hold the middle mouse button to orbit your view. There we go. We're going to go across, down, and you know, this is supposed to be fairly easy. What I'm doing is sketching, so we're not going by real precise measurements, we're just kind of eyeballing it. There we go. Okay, great. Now this time around, instead of manually drawing each side, now we're going to use another tool which is called the pull push tool, and that tool is actually located right here. And what the pull push tool will do for us is, if we just kind of click it here, and we notice when you hover over a particular section, it becomes highlighted. So you hover over the E and you left click and hold and push the mouse up, and what it does is extrudes the shape for us. Now this is true on any surface. So for example, if I go back to my original shape here, I could extrude this higher or lower. I could extrude the base higher or lower, and this is all using that push pull tool. Alright, so far we have used the push pull tool, and we have used the selection tool. We know that the selection tool allows us to select different objects, and the push pull tool allows us to extrude an object. We have also used the pencil tool, and the pencil tool we have used to actually create shapes. Alright, great. Now a further breakdown of what these tools do are found on the handout itself. So if you go to the handout, you'll notice that there's a short description for each of these tools here. So in case you don't quite remember what they do, you can always refer to this. Alright, so now that we've kind of gotten the hang of this, we are going to now explore how we can do this, but now using measurements, as what we've been doing so far is kind of a freehand 3D modeling, which is what SketchUp is great at. To be instantly able to pull or push different objects is really awesome, because if it was a building, you would be able to explore like different ways of doing something just by simply pulling and pushing. It's a great tool for doing massing, and it's also good for doing accurate massing as well, which we will see now. Now to get going, what I want us to do is go to File and go to let's go to New from Template, and we are going to choose the architectural millimeters template. That's here, and this is asking if we want to save. I'm going to say no, because we don't need to save those shapes. Alright, great. So now you're in the architectural millimeters template. Now just as before, we're going to ensure that we have our large tool set open, which we can do from View, Toolbars, and Enable Large Tool Set. And we want to minimize our default tray. So if you have this tray open, you're going to just click the little auto hide, or you can actually close it. Doesn't really matter, because we want to get maximum screen real estate. Now what we're going to do is tackle this shape first. So we're going to have this over here, and let's have SketchUp over here. Now there are some measurements that you can see clearly that is on this drawing, but there are some measurements that are also missing. So we are going to combine drawing accurately with measurements along with sketching, which we have just tested a while ago.